It's time to finish our look into bedding bass behavior. I got some cool underwater footage I want to show you that I got, and also I want to go through my top baits for when I'm bed fishing. We'll go through my different ones, how I fish them, and the approach I take. So let's get into it. Well guys, if you've never seen a big bass laying her eggs, here you go. This is a short video, but I thought it was pretty cool to capture. You know, we got big old 8-pound female here. You can see her fanning her tail. She's dropping her eggs right here. That's a bed right on that stump. And the small male is sitting there too, but you can't even see him. He's so small. She catches wind of me and swims off. You know, she hears the trolling motor, but it was a pretty cool thing to capture. The next we have another cool thing to watch underwater, and that's fry. These are baby bass. If you look closely, you can see their little lateral lines. And this is what happens after the female comes in, drops her eggs, the male fertilizes them. He's gonna stick around for about a week or so. She only sticks around a couple of days and then she's gone, and then he sticks around, guards the eggs, and then once they become mobile in fry stage, they'll kind of move off the bed in the shoreline cover, trees, and things like that, and he'll move with them and make sure they're okay. You know, bass have a lot of predators when they're this size. You know, we got bluegill and other types of fish coming in shallow to feed on them, so they need dear old dad there to kind of scare off the other bluegill. And a low percentage of these are going to survive, but that's exactly why they have so many. But I thought this was really cool to watch underwater too, and he's not too happy about that camera under there. Alright, well this is the arsenal I'll throw when I'm bed fishing. And like I've said before, you have to go through different baits, different techniques to figure out really what the fish want. Every fish is different when they're on the beds most of the time. Sometimes they'll bite really fast, sometimes you really got to work on them, but most of the time you can get them to bite if you experiment long enough and figure out what they want. Just watch them and figure it out. So the first thing that I'll normally do if I spot them from far away, I'll throw a subtle bait. And this is one that I really like to throw. It's a LFT original magic shad. It has an action like this when it's sinking, or this LFT hyper stick, some type of stick bait, or shad style, fluke style bait. I'll throw it past the bed, I'll twitch it a couple times, I'll let it sink down in there, and I'll watch what the fish does. If it swims off, immediately I know that this fish is probably not even catchable. It's not worth my time. If it kind of comes over, looks at it, you know, doesn't bite it, but just does a circle around it or something, I know the fish is catchable. And sometimes they'll eat this as soon as you throw it in there, which is always nice. But the next thing that I'll do is throw a subtle Texas rig. If they don't bite the magic shad or the hyper stick, I'll throw a light Texas rig first. And the reason I'm going light first, I want to do something just a little less aggressive, and it's not going to stir the bed up as much. I want to try to do that first. So some of the baits that I really like to throw on the Texas rig are a baby hyper freak. This is also made by LFT. This is a color that I really like, and it's called tilapia. I'm not even sure if it looks like a tilapia, but the reason I like this color is because it's almost like camouflaged on this side. When it's sitting in the bed, it looks kind of like dirt, and then when I flip it over, it's pearl white. So if that bait is sitting in the bed and I pop it up and it flashes that white, it'll surprise the fish. Anytime you can surprise them when they're on the bed, it will usually trigger some type of reaction. So you can get a bite by surprising them. The next bait is a tube. This is just a killer bait, absolutely on bedfish because it's erratic. Make sure you get a good one. This one's made by Mismo. It's got a tapered tail, kind of a pointed head. That lets it be pretty erratic in the water. Another reason a tube is good, it's got a short skirt to it. You know, this is a 3.5-inch tube, but it's got a short skirt to it, short body, and the fish can take the whole thing in their mouth, and you'll catch them easily. You know, things like this lizard, they can pick it up by the tail, move it off, and your hook's up here, so you'll never catch them. but that's the reason that tube is really a good bait. But you know, sometimes this lizard, they absolutely just hate this thing and they will slurp it. This is an LFT hyper lizard. Basically it's got a lot of action in the tail, pretty standard up front, but sometimes they just hate a lizard, and I like to throw a dark colored one, either black or black and blue, something natural. I know a lot of people throw white and everything, and I'll throw that sometimes too, but my main rule on colors is I'll go natural first. You know, if I can see the fish. If I can't see them very good at all, and I can see something like this pink or chartreuse, I'll throw that. But if I'm on a lake, the fish have seen a lot of lures during the bedding time, then I'll just go with straight natural colors. Seems to work for me better. And the next thing I'll go to is a little bit more aggressive approach. I'll bump up the weight. Now this is a 3/4 ounce jig right here, and I'll put different trailers on it, basically all craw trailers. This is one I like. This is a Yum Craw Pappy and a green pumpkin, just something natural, something dark. I also really like this LFT craw right here. I like this a little bit better to put straight on a Texas rig, and I really like it on a jig too because it tends to stand up better. This action right here, when you move the jig and have it sitting there on that football jig, it'll stand up like this, and anytime you get that defensive posture, it seems to really trigger the strike. So of course this is just really natural looking as well. This is the larger model, and they also have this smaller model, this baby model, which is just deadly. You know, we talked about before in the video switching up from a larger bait, heavier bait, going down to a smaller bait, and a lot of times that can trigger a strike. Well, this little dude right here is really bad to the bone, and sometimes I'll even put this big 1 ounce weight on that little craw, and it just stirs up the nest more. You know, if you go from this light Texas rig right here and they're not hitting it, that's when it's time to go to something heavy, something more aggressive. And that 3/4 ounce jig or this 1 ounce weight on the Texas rigs will usually get a strike if you're not getting them on that subtle approach. And the last thing that I'll do is the drop shot. It's not aggressive at all. Just throw it on a short little leader, fluorocarbon line, and this is a LFT live baby shad. As you can see, it's got a ton of action in the tail when I'm just holding it here, but basically in the water it looks like a little minnow that is just coming along, and it's gonna just take an egg or two, and they just come over to it and they breathe it in. It's a great option to go to after you've been through all these, gone super aggressive, they're not hitting it. That is the next option to hit. Just really subtle, really small, non-aggressive, and they'll just come over and breathe it in. So that's my top baits for bed fishing. I hope you enjoyed watching some of that underwater bedding bass behavior footage. I thought it was really cool capturing the 8-pounder spawning on the tree. That's not something you see every day, so I enjoyed getting that footage. And I hope you learned something from the techniques and the baits that I throw. Maybe you learned something new, and if you're new to bed fishing, maybe I gave you a good place to start. So keep your lines tight, and I'll see you next time.